lives of the people. And of course, we x-ray activities that are happening here at the state. Sometimes, at some point, we even take a look at the international scene in our discussions. Today's edition of the program has provided us an opportunity to look at restructuring in terms of governance and democracy. What can we do in that aspect? There has been this long time clamor for restructuring of our governance, of our democracy, and more. But the way to go has always been the problem. National confabs in the past have recommended this, yet Nigeria seems not to be ready to do it. What is the place of restructuring in terms of governance and, of course, democracy in Nigeria? To do justice to this very important topic, we have a former chairman of Ado local government and, of course, a management consultant, talking about Honorable Agbo Abo, who is in the house here to, join in the discussion on how Nigeria should best be at this time and where should Nigeria also be at the moment. I'd like to welcome you to the studios of Benue Television once again, Honorable Agbo, for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, it's good to have you. And there are issues that we need to talk about. And let's talk about them as fearlessly as possible, because the Benue people and, of course, Nigerians want the truth at this point so that they know what to do to be able to fix the country. To you, democratic and restructuring in terms of governance, what does that really mean to you as a Democrat and as a patriot?
Well, thank you very much for that question. I think
you're welcome.
Before we talk about restructuring, it means you have a structure. Nigeria had a structure, political structure, right before the amalgamation of the southern and the northern protectorates, and which gave birth to what we call Nigeria now in 1914. That had been the structure, the colonial structure we had. Two structure, the north and southern protectorates. We went further to go into regions. We went into regions. The two protectorates, the amalgamated one, developed into three structures. We have the north. We have they call it the northern region, and then the western region, eastern region. Then in 1964, I would say, because of political tensions and political considerations, the Midwest was created to make it more or less the fourth one. The experience in Nigeria at that time.
When you talk about the Midwest, are you referring to regions like the Niger Delta region?
No, the Midwest. There was, apart from the northern region, we had...
because I remember we had two protectorates, the northern and the southern protectorate.
Yeah, that was the
and
first.
So when you talk about
region came up in 1956, when the first, I would say the first more or less indigenous political structure was put in place. That was when you heard of Ahmadu Bello being premier of a northern region. Michael Okpara being premier of eastern region. Then we will have the formidable Chief Awolowo as the premier of western region. Then, because of political consideration,
yes,
that was the time Midwest was created, because there was a conflict between the Awolowo group and then Ahmadu Bello's structure, Tafawa Balewa group. So to weaken the West, to weaken the Western region, the Midwest was created in 1964 to make it a fourth region. When you look at it, Nigeria was operating at a very good space.
Yes.
Between our independence, the regions was created even before the independence. The independence just gave birth to say, okay, you are now in charge of this, in charge of that. At that time, it is good for Nigerians to know why people are clamoring for structure, why I'm in support of restructure. Nigeria.
How many governors did we have that time you're talking about here?
No, we had a premier, 4 premier. That was when operating the prime minister style of governance.
Yes.
Because at this point in time, Nigeria was operating the prime minister.
Are you talking about the parliamentarian system?
Yes, that is the prime minister. That is because where you get your prime minister from, the parliaments. That was the structure, the democratic, the political structure at that time. So we had the 4 premiers in charge of the 4 regions at that time. So when Nigeria was operating that structure, the regional governments is how they were called at that time. As I would call it, the regions, 4 regions. So the regional governments were operating and governing in this country in such a way that even the West were jealous of Nigeria. Because at that time, each of the regions... Are you
saying it was the best system we ever had?
Yes, at that time it was the best, because Nigeria was competing with the superpowers. I think it was one of this British Prime Minister predicted that in 10 years' time, from 1960, in 10 years' time,
yes,
Nigeria will be at par with other developing countries, because that was the rate Nigeria was moving. And the reason for that high tempo of development in Nigeria was that each of the 4 regions were economically, politically competing favorable, not bitterness, competing with themselves, to the extent that Awolowo was the first to establish the Ikeja textile mill, which when I was living in Lagos, I took time to say, okay, let me go and see this textile hub developed by Awolowo. Even up to now, you still see them there. Ahmadu Bello will see, okay, this is going on in the West. Oh yeah, North, you must have your textile hub. And that's what led to Ariwa textile mills, Kaduna textile mills, United Nigeria.
Okay, so in essence, there was competition amongst the regions.
Very much competition. As these 2 were doing this, Okpara went and established Aba textile mills. If you talk of institutions, the first was in the West, UI was established by Awolowo and Ife. Our own premier, Sir Ahmadu Bello, went and established Ahmadu Bello University. Azikiwe went and established the University of Nsukka. So in fact, the competition was in such a way that the West were jealous and say in 10 years' time, Nigeria may overtake the developed countries. So this was the rate Nigeria was moving until the interference, I would say the interference of the 1966 military takeover headed by Major Nzogu at that time. Nzogu of Katna, as they used to properly call him. He was the one, the military terminated the rate, high tempo of development going on in this country. And after that wide gap between 1966, that the military had been ruling, up to 1978, when preparation for democratic rule was put in place by General Murtala Mohammed, which eventually was anchored by General Obasanjo in 1979 and handed over to President Shehu Shagari under a presidential system of government, and that was the beginning of the slow pace of development in Nigeria.
Why didn't you talk about the assassination of General Murtala Mohammed by Bukar Sukadinka? Because you had talked about the other coup that was led by General Nzogu. And why didn't you? Why was it deliberate?
It was deliberate because I was not taking it one by one.
Okay.
I was not taking it.
It's all right. That's fine.
That's why I just prefer to say military takeovers.
It's all right. I like the elaborate preamble you have been able to lay to this discussion. There are more issues that we need to talk about. From what you said, and I've gotten so interested, while there was competition that time amongst the regions,
Yes.
this time around there is monopoly. The government does what it wants, and there is no competition, there is no one to check and all of that. The excesses are many. There is no one to challenge the other to do that. So it means we moved from the UK system, parliamentary, to what we have copied from the United States of America. And now we are not doing... Now the question is, now there are people who are clamoring for regional system of governance. Do you think Mr. President should listen to them and go back to that system?
I would say, for the interest of development of this country, it is sad that it has taken long time before we are even talking, even though it has been long, about people clamoring to go back to competitive nature in Nigeria. It is my belief that for Nigeria to develop, for Nigerian states to develop and compete with what was happening between 1956 and 1966, Nigeria has to stop the present bottle feeding system of governance. What I mean by bottle feeding is that since the end of the competitive nature that the military ended in 1966 and created the 12 states in 1967, that was the beginning of economic dormancy in Nigeria.
Could it be General Gowon that did this?
Yes.
The creation of the 12 states,
yes.
right?
May
because history
27.
is important to our living.
Yes.
Sometimes I wanted people to get these things.
May 27, 1967, General Yakubu Gowon created the 12 states in Nigeria.
1967.
May 27, 1967, General Gowon reshuffled the political structure in Nigeria from 4 regions.
Can you mention these states? Will you be able to remember?
Well, to remember...
At least, even if it's half of them.
Yes.
Because for the sake of history, people need to know about.
That time, we had, I will start from my own place,
Yes.
the North Central, North Central with the headquarters even in Canada that time. Okay, yes, that was the regional something. We have the North Central, we have the Northeast with headquarters in Borno. We had the Sokoto State, we had the Kwara State, we have Lagos State, we had Rivers State, we have Northeastern State.
You can remember them.
I mean, but I'm a writer.
Yes, you
I'm a
can
writer.
remember.
I
I'm
even have
surprised.
books.
Yes.
Where I mention even the first governors.
I'm happy that you're able to record that precisely. And now when 12 states were created, this was by a decree.
Yes.
Yes. Now, why is it that we have not given a thought about state creation under civilian, rulership? Why is it so difficult for one to create states?
Well, I think let us put it in line like this.
Yes.
We are discussing the issue of creation of states.
Yes.
We are discussing that what was working in Nigeria,
Yes.
regional government was, I would say, was rudely interjected in
Right.
1967,
Yes.
where they brought about the 12 states. And like I said, since that 1967, Nigeria have been in political and economic dormancy because the competitive nature that was in place during the regional governments were no longer in place when the 12 states were created. And the reason is that, let me just make this a clarification for the why the regions were going on, the regional government, why there were competition, why there was fast economic development,
Yes.
is that each region, each of the 4 regions were empowered, were allowed to make use of all revenue generated.
Okay.
They were just-
Independently.
yes, independently. No person will come and no central government to come and say stop this thing. You only there was a contribution. You only make a contribution to the central government. Because of that, states regions were encouraged to produce at their highest level. So with interjection and then, like I said, rudely interjection of the military
On May
stopping
27th,
on May
1967. Yes.
But the regions stop their economic competition. That is the root of Nigerian situation that we are experiencing up to today.
So
that instead of the states, when the regions were replaced by states, instead of the states to continue with the competitive nature, they stopped because you don't. If all the regional revenues were now diverted or taken to Abuja or Lagos that time for distribution to the states. So the states were no reason now for the 12 states to go into competition that they inherited from the regions. That is the origin of what Nigeria is suffering today, that even Benue State cannot pay salary. Not just Benue State. Most, I would say virtually all the states except about 4 cannot pay salary unless they go camp in hand in Abuja instead of concentrating here to be able to generate their own internal revenue to do what they want as a state. So that is the beginning of the confusion in this country.
So in essence, what you're saying here is that the problem we have today is handed to us by the military.
Yes. It's handled.
Okay, and if this is the case, are you telling me that the civilian rulership does not have the willpower to navigate or do anything that is extraordinary? Because ever since then, it's been very difficult for civilian regimes to create states. And also, apart from that, the competitiveness has already gone.
Yes.
What can we now do to bring back that competitiveness? Is it restructuring?
Very good.
And if it is restructuring, is it political restructuring or economic restructuring?
Both.
How do we go about it?
Yes. In my book, I put it there. both has to go together. Because
where do we start first?
Yes, we'll start with political and governance restructuring. That is why I say when you talk of a restructuring, it means there was a structure. The structure in place at independence was regional government. Military stopped it, and we have seen that instead of Nigeria be among the developed countries, we are. In fact, there's a statistical something I provided in my book that Nigeria, instead of being among the 10 best developed countries in this world, we are now among the 13 poorest nations in the world. 13 poorest nation in the world, because no person, and the simple reason for that is the military style that they introduced in 1967 with the creation of a state, and now even getting up to 36 states. This thing has stopped productivity among the states, and that's why we are among the 13 poorest nations in this country, in this world.
Beautiful. So now, Honorable Agbo, I would want us to be very, factual about whatever we are saying here. Let's tell ourselves the truth. Now that we have identified that the problem we are facing now was handed to us by the military, the bigger question is, are we not old enough as a civilian government to consider restructuring? Why is it so difficult for us to embark on a restructuring journey? Remember, we have had 3 times national conferences since after the military regime. President Goodluck Jonathan had a national confab. Obasanjo had a national conference as well. The problem is, the question is, why is it difficult for us to agree and do the things that Nigerians are recommending or calling for?
Yes. The origin of disagreement, or not willing, I would say not willing to do it, is that initially under the regional governments, they have to convince. They convinced in London Conference of 1956. They convinced Ahmadu Bello, because he was not even willing to go for the regional something that you even have something central that for you, because the truth at that time is that they were existing. That is very important. They were existing as more or less as independent countries. So the only way they were able to convince Ahmadu Bello, to go for even the regional, because he say he's just on his own country. Why are you coming to interfere with what he's doing here? He say, okay, whatever you are doing economically, politically, we are not going to interfere with it. So continue with your productive endeavors. Whatever you get from northern region is for northern region, economically. That was the condition that Ahmadu Bello used to even accept the region, because he was just independent as a different, almost like a different country. Now, there is a twist in this country. Now, that's why I'm to answer your question. Do you know that they have to persuade the Northerners using Ahmadu Bello to even agree that the North should even be part of what is happening at the center, because they say, okay, you will go with your economic activities and everything will belong to you, but you just give us something to maintain the military, to maintain the immigration, federal establishments. Because why he was reluctant is that the North were on their own producing something that they can exist without any person. The same thing, Awolowo, Cocoa House must have heard of all those things. Just mere cocoa selling. they were doing well economically. Why there's a twist in Nigeria now is that because of the unproductive nature of, I would say, the North now, because of sharing of creation of states where each state is just on its own and depending on Abuja to exist. The wealth of this country now is in the south.
Okay, the wealth of the country is in the south. Is it because of the oil?
Yes, because of the oil. The North now find it difficult. The North that was being persuaded to even join the Central is now spearheading, not going back to what they even preferred in the past. So that is the origin of the difficulty we have in restructuring this country to its former distance, because they are now saying, okay, because that time there was no the oil, something that it was only from the 70s till now that Nigeria was depending on oil. Before, Nigeria was depending on their agricultural produce, and that is the time that I say even from agriculture they were able to move at the same rate with Brazil, moved at the same rate with it, in fact faster than India, the same rate with China.
It's okay. Well, I think we're due for a break at this time. This is Table Talk on Benue Television. Stay with us. Honorable Agbo Abo is in the house, former chairman of the local government and of course management consultant, is talking to us about restructuring democratically and of course in terms of governance. We'll be back very shortly.
Benue Fashion Show Season 3 is here.
It's that time of the year for fashion designers, entrepreneurs, and fashion enthusiasts to shine.
This year, sale of forms for the competition begins from 15th April to 30th June 2024.
Pick a form at Benue Television, located at Special Duties Wing, Government House, Makudi. Form costs 5,000 naira only.
Stage 1 screening begins on the 6th of July 2024. Great prizes await you.
The first prize, 1 million naira. Second prize, 500,000 naira. And third prize, 300,000 naira. All prizes are inclusive of cash and fashion tools. Also, consolation prizes and gift items.
For sponsorship, partnership and inquiries, please call Benue TV Marketing on 0906 188 9838 or 0703 794 5569.
Benue Fashion Show,
embracing fusion fashion.
Welcome back to the program. This is Table Talk on Benue Television. We hope you are still watching us, and we are looking at restructuring in governance and of course democracy. This is what we are taking a look at here today, and one who has devoted his time to analyzing what Nigeria stands for and what should be done in Nigeria to make it a great country. A management consultant has been here with us talking about this. Mr. Agbo, Honorable Agbo, I'd like to say that we have issues in the country that we need to battle with. Our past leaders, that's the military leaders, most of them are still alive. General Gowon is alive. And Babangida is alive. We have some of them that, we also have General T.Y. Danjaman, who is also alive. These are the people who knew when the mistake that has led Nigeria to where it is now are still living. These are the people who were there when these mistakes were made. and General Abdulsalam Abubakar is also alive. What do you think is making these people reluctant about advising Nigeria on what can be done to make us a greater country? Is it for political reasons?
Yes. I just mentioned giving one of the reasons for the reluctance of the North to accept restructuring, because there have been a twist of source of economic power. The North embraced the regions because they were doing better in terms of agriculture and progressing well. So they accepted to be half independence through the regional government. Now that I say the economic power has shifted to the south,
yes,
restructuring, according to them, means allowing the south to go to be to monopolize the oil revenue in the south and just bring a little to the central government. That's why there was a question you asked that yes, that we need not just political restructuring. We need what we call physical federalism. It is the physical federalism aspect that deals with issue of dominancy of revenue, where the revenue is and where it's less.
Yes.
So we cannot do political restructuring by saying, oh yeah, go back to whether it's a regional government, whether it's a parliamentary system, without embracing the physical federalism. Physical federalism, many people should know that it is like talking about not the physical fight. Physical is different from the physical is FISCA.
I understand.
Good. I'm not talking of people now, because when you say when you say physical federalism, they will say they're fighting. No. Physical federalism is what I will even call financial federalism.
Yes, that's fiscal federalism.
Yes.
Yes.
So, and that one simply means, that is why they not find it difficult to agree. That one simply means the south, whatever you produce, oil, rivers, in fact only River State, though there are many, there are about 9 states there now that are producing oil. Whatever you have, get it, be in charge, it's your own. Only send us, in fact in my book I suggested that they should send just between 20 and 30%. It's even 30%, it's even much. 20% to the central. Let them go with 80. The same thing the North.
So you're not comfortable with the sharing formula now?
Yes, the sharing formula, like I said, that everybody is waiting for Abuja at the end of the month, is making us unproductive. If you are, it's like what we used to say, that if you want your child to be able to walk on his own, you must allow him to fall many times and even wound himself. If not, he can't walk. So for us to be able to exist on our own, we should be challenged. The states should be challenged to go, because they have the resources, agriculture. Many countries depend on agriculture for survival, even now. So
that's right.
That is
So now let's look at this. The state governors have assumed a verbose amount of power that seems as though they are deciding the fate of the country. It seems as though the president cannot decide on any form of restructuring without, having to dance to the tone of the governors. You recall what happened recently with the national minimum wage. Whereas the government is saying we have the capacity to pay this, the state governors are saying they do not have that capacity. But remember, these allocations come from the government at the center. What can we do to correct because we're talking about restructuring in governance now.
Yes.
What can we do to remove all of these powers that these people have? And these powers are affecting our national and subnational growth.
Well, thank you for that very serious issue in Nigeria is what is going on now. And governance in Nigeria and governance in Nigeria. Governance
Yes,
and
governance and
governors
governance, yes.
in Nigeria is a thing that will even need another book, because right from Obasanjo period that ended between 1999 and 2007, governors have been the major deciders of things in this country. They used to decide who is going to even be the president. That's why they made one of them during Obasanjo period to bring Yar'Adua.
But is it right?
Well,
What is happening?
Yes, it is not. It is not right.
So who brought us to this problem? Where did it start?
Well, where it started from the power given to the governors by the Constitution, and that's why it's part of what we are saying. Restructuring this country means, of course, we can't do restructuring without tampering with restructuring the Constitution.
Yes.
In fact, people are agitating for complete do away with the present Constitution.
But are you sure it's the Constitution that is the problem?
Yes. Why it is the problem is that the Constitution has given president, governors power as if they are gods. They determine everything.
But you know the power is to give them freedom to work and not freedom to witch hunt or to
If
maltreat
you
the
have there's a popular saying that absolute power corrupts absolutely. That is what is happening in this country. By the time there's a constitutional review that whatever at the national level, the positions, the ministerial positions, the head of ministries, departments, agencies,
yes,
the head should be proportional to the votes earned by different
Yes.
political parties. You will now swing the wings of the president. You will now swing the wings of the governors. If you bring that on, now no governor, even taking the example of my state in Benue State, governor will not have the absolute power now to decide who are the commissioners, who are the heads of ministries, departments and agencies. It will reflect the proportion of votes earned by different political parties. That is the only way to cut the wings of the governors. The Constitution are giving them absolute power, which is corrupting absolutely.
I love the way you've been able to put the matter. The Constitution has given them absolute power, which is corrupting them absolutely.
Absolutely.
Very well. Now let's look at this. Do you think the arm of government in Nigeria that is ready, that is supposed to really work up to like 45% in this restructuring agenda, do you think they are ready? I'm talking about the legislative arm of government, because they are the ones to come up with a legal framework that will give us the law that will say this is where Nigeria should go now and this is what Nigeria should be now. Do you think the body language shows that they are willing and ready to do a thing like that?
Well, there are two strategies, options for arriving at what will move this country forward. One is we have gotten our representatives, let them decide, like some of them have tabled bills to restructure this country. let them decide.
But how long have those bills been there? Because there were bills that were sent to the National Assembly for restructuring when you were still a young person.
No, there's a present move now by it was on the news where even the last one now that we're talking about all elections, both presidential to National Assembly to House of Assembly to this should be conducted the same day.
Do you think Mr. President is truly comfortable with that?
Yes, he will.
But you know that even if Mr. President is comfortable, it takes the voice of the National Assembly for this to be consolidated.
Yes, you see, I told you that we have.
So what if they're not willing?
I told you we have two options.
Okay.
One is to leave it at on the table of our representatives, which is weaker option. The second option, which will work better and faster, is first to amend the constitution to provide for referendum.
Yes, there's no room for referendum in our constitution.
Yes, that's what I said, to amend it.
Yes.
Second, secondly, on the do away with it. Don't even talk about a referendum. Bring representatives of Nigerians from all walks of lives.
But we have had that through national conferences.
I made a statement the other time that having a national conference of 500 members is to go for rowdy discussion. You go to committees. No, I told you that American Constitution was solely drafted by one person.
Are you suggesting that?
So if they can bring 20 such, in Nigeria we have personalities.
Are you suggesting that?
We have personalities that can do what 1,000 congregation can do, and they will come out better. If they come out, they are empowered. Whatever they say is final, and that's what the representative will reflect everywhere. It's not to say it's dominated by North or dominated by the West, dominated by East. We have names. Sorry to be personal with myself. If I am, in fact, in that my book, the one I wrote to the National Assembly, where I say I have where it was stamped to be received. I say, because all this one we are discussing, they are there. I say, if Nigeria, if you have the political will to adopt what is there, Nigeria will change in the next 2 years. Because you are bringing people that are not bothered about whether, if you say this, your president, your governor will say, why did you say so? Bring independent people with their decision should be independent. Bring them, they can change. All this one we are talking, this one will not agree. The North will not agree. The South will not agree. There are people from the North, people from the South, people from the East that will come and put this country bring a structure that will change this country. Because I continue to say that if you bring, like what Governor Alia is doing in Benue State,
yes,
bring somebody, a president that can govern well, that can have the political will to govern, this country can be changed in 2 years.
This country can be changed in 2 years if we do that. I think I wish Mr. President is listening to what you're saying here. Let me give you a chance to finally say something. Do you think that beyond the military, don't you think that our politicians too are the reasons why till date restructuring has not successfully held in this country?
Yes, I think the issue of the politicians, we have always said it that we don't have the type of politicians we have. That's why I gave a second option. The type of politicians we have are not our representatives.
They are representing themselves, right?
They are representing themselves because where somebody is in the National Assembly because of governor wants him to be there. When somebody in House of Representatives because governor is a friend to the governor, a friend to the senator. Those are not representatives.
It's okay. Well, I must thank you very much. Let me really commend you, Honorable Agbo, for being here in the studios once again to comment on the issue of democratic and governance restructuring. I must say thank you so much for being here. We hope to have another engagement very soon. Very many thanks for coming.
Thank you for inviting me. Thanks.
Yes. And so this is where we have to say goodbye. I want to appreciate all of you for watching us live on Benway Television. Table Talk will make a return. Monday will be here to engage you on a very robust topic and discussion. To our viewer, we want to say thank you very much. My name is Japhet Kwahom. Goodbye.